Hi everyone, it's only me. So I wanted to do a basic, absolute bare basics instructional video on how to shoot a bow. By the very nature of shooting bows, especially wooden bows, strings can snap and wooden limbs in particular, any limb for any bow can break. So you have to be careful. So yeah, always check your bows over to make sure there's no signs of splinters and the strings aren't fraying, because you can get injured, or people standing around you for bow blows can get injured. So basics first. So with my bows, which way up should it go? So normally on mine the top limb is longer, but it'll have my bowyer's mark on the top end. Okay, so if you've seen the video I've done recently, you hold these bows with your hand right down to the bottom of the handle. Okay, so that's where your hand goes on the bow. Every single time you grip the bow, your hand has to be in the same place. Okay, excuse my messy t-shirt, I've just come straight from the workshop. So that's how you handle the bow. Once your hand is on there, if you move your hand up or down or anywhere else, it's going to affect your aim. Okay, so hand stays where it is on the bow. String generally wants to be what we call a fist melee, so about that high on mine, and I take that measurement from the limb rather than from the handle. But as long as you keep the string the same distance from the handle consistently, because strings will stretch, then again that'll make, every time you loose the string, it'll be consistent with what you're doing. So with a bow like this, where you've got a bowyer's loop on this end, or bowyer's notch, and a loop on this end, you string it by, you hold the back of the bow without any timber on it facing towards you, you put the bottom end on your instep, you push the top limb away from you, and slide the string into the nock. You make sure that it's seated in there. Have a good look at it, make sure it's seated in the groove, check the bottom end is the same as well. So protective gear. You'll need something to protect your arm from string slap, so a bracer. And if you're shooting a bare bow like this, you shoot off the hand. So you'll need a glove of some sort. The ones which have got reinforcement of leather around here are better because it stops it wearing through quite so quickly. Most people shoot with either a tab or a shooting glove on the other hand. So most tabs come with this design. It's a Mediterranean grip, so it's 3 up and 2 down. Okay. So that's your bow. Arrows. Arrows usually come with the flights. There's one flight which is a different colour, and that's called the cock flight. So that flight faces away from the bow. So arrow placement doesn't come on the thumb side unless you're shooting a different type of bow, not this sort of thing. It comes onto the finger, the knuckle side. Okay. The cock flight, which in this case is pink, it faces away from the bow, because if you have it facing the bow, it'll kick out as it goes around the handle. So as it passes the bow like this, it presents a flat surface. Okay. Generally, I place my string, I look for about 90 degrees and then move it up a tiny bit, so about a knock's length upwards. So again, you make sure that your hand is in the same place always. So Mediterranean grip, so it's 3 up and 2 down. Okay. For me, the most important thing is your anchor point. So wherever you're drawing the bow back to, it has to be exactly the same every single time. So some people draw back to what's called the kissing point, where you bring it back to your nose or to the side of your nose. I bring it back so that my index finger is on the, just resting on the side of my mouth in here. You have to do that every single time. Okay, so your hand placement has to be the same, your anchor point has to be the same, and your release has to be the same. I'm not a coach, so I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who can give way better advice than I can. This is just absolute basics. So some people, when they draw the bow, they'll hold the bow up and then they'll draw back to anchor point. I don't do that, I've never done that. I always just start low, bring up, anchor point and loose. Okay? I have a tendency to drop my front hand a little bit when I loose, which is wrong. Your setup has to be exactly the same every single time, and then you can adjust where you're going, where you're shooting. The most important thing is to try and be consistent, so you're grouping your arrows. Okay, so Michelle, I hope you're watching. So again, hands at the bottom of the bow, nice and snugly in. You place the arrow on the string. You can normally have a serving, so it's a wound piece of string around it to protect the string itself. Okay, so you've got the string on the bow. Look, so I always shoot instinctively. I don't shoot both eyes open instinctively. Look at the target where you want to hit. Draw up. You want about a second or two's gap before you loose. Okay, so this is very fast. It's about 60-pound draw weight. So just a couple of reminders. Okay, so your hand is still on the same place in the bow. Knock comes onto the string. Again, 90 degrees, up about a knock's height. Remember, the cock feather goes away from the bow, so the pink one in this case goes away from the bow. Okay. Always make sure there's something safe behind your target. So I always shoot at the target, but behind the target is the house. So if I miss the target, there's a big safe backdrop and it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so up, pause, loose. Okay, do a couple more. So, and you just have to shoot thousands and thousands of arrows. And when you're shooting instinctively, you'll find the more you shoot, the tighter your groups will get, and then your brain will just automatically dial you in to the target point. Okay, start close to the target, ideally sort of 8 to 10 meters, and then gradually work your way back. Okay, thanks for watching. More videos on the way.